guinea pigs, but this is information that we, Lori and Marty and I agree should be shared with faculty here at Kent State and professionals out there in the field. This is new stuff, and my goal today is within an hour, what I want to do is be able to have you understand both why the state has made a change in the induction program, so why these changes when what we had was going along with entry-year programs and mentors, and secondly, what those changes look like. Please know that that second question will only be answered partly because the state isn't quite sure what it's going to look like until the spring of 2010. So I'm here to give you the most up-to-date information. My background is in, I taught in a prison, and then I taught for 5 years in prison. I was a hippie, and I just thought, why would I go to public schools? It's much too coercive. So I taught rapists and murderers. That was so much more enjoyable. Actually, I really did enjoy it, but I decided to go into public education. Got my PhD here in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on professional development. I love this course. I told Marty I envy her. I'd love to teach it because my job for Kent City Schools, while I taught English, I was also the director of staff development for the district. And I insisted on keeping at least one class because I felt I had more credibility among teachers because I taught a class. One year the superintendent took me out, and I distinctly remember it was only October when I started getting ludicrous ideas about what teachers should be doing in their classroom because I'd been out a full 5 weeks. So I always taught at least one, if not 3 classes, and I would teach an elective course, and I would also teach they called them the cream of the crop, the worst seniors who had not finished an English class, and then they would come to me, and so I was able to practice those skills. As part of my staff development responsibilities, I was the coordinator of the entry-year program. How many of you are familiar with the Ohio's entry-year programs up until that? You know that new teachers had to have mentors and that you all knew that. So that started late in the very late in the 1980s, and I was part of that helped set that up for the state and set up one for Kent City Schools. So I was pretty smug about what we were doing. We won awards in Kent City Schools for our mentoring program. And last year I was asked to be on the committee. There were 2 committees going on in 2008, 2009. One was the pre-service committee through the ODE, and what they did was they took representatives from various institutions of higher education, various colleges of education throughout the state, who met about every 6 weeks in Columbus. Joanne Arhar, our Dean of Undergraduate Services, was on that committee, as was Alicia Crow. Dr. Crow is in Social Studies Education. So the 2 of them were on that committee. Again, that was the pre-service committee. Their job was really to take a look at what can be done at the pre-service level before teachers get their license to prepare them for that beginning year or 2. And that was the first time we ever even asked education or higher education, what could you be doing? We've existed as separate entities, public school and the College of Education. You've given us with a license, thanks for doing your silly little theoretical job, is how we looked at them in higher education. Whereas in higher education, they were looking at us as, okay, we're giving you the best we've got, now do something with it. Well, there was a second committee that was called the Induction Committee, and Joanne asked me to be on that committee. And so I would go down to Columbus every about 5 or 6 weeks last year, and I represented Kent State. I represented higher education, all the state universities. And there was another representative from Dayton, University of Dayton, and the rest of the representatives were from public schools. And our job was to take a look at what would a new induction program look like in the state. Well, I went down there with my typical righteous indignation because, first of all, I thought, what's wrong with the current system? And who do you think you are after all this work of coming up with the framework of domains, Praxis 3, training all the Praxis 3 assessors? Many districts in Ohio actually converted their teacher evaluation system to mimic the domain. Am I right? How many of you are in a system where, right, and do you know how expensive it is to redo that? Not only do you have to spend time redoing the teacher evaluation system, you have to print everything. So I was pretty upset, so much so that I actually was getting calls from they were bringing in consultants from Santa Cruz, and they would call me from California to say, Janice, are you okay about this? Now, I guess I really got a bad reputation. Well, I think it was right around by December, I was humbled enough to shut my head up enough to listen and learn. and to see that they had some really good ideas. And what really took me to the dark side, no, took me over to their side, can best be captured in the article that some of you have already read. I had to write it on the board, so I want to call him Neiman Marcus. Her name is Feynman Damser from the University of Michigan. What a wonderful article that is, and it made me remember what I was studying back when I was getting my master's and my PhD. It made me remember the research that's out there on what we know about good professional development. I kind of forgot it over the years. I got so busy with my checklist and get a mentor for the new teacher, make sure we meet once a month, and make sure we do this, I forgot. And so I was humbled enough again just to listen. And so what I want to do today, as you can see on your green agenda, Roman numeral 1 and 2 is my effort at convincing you why we needed to make this change, why the state made the change. And then Roman numeral 3 will be what those changes would look like, all right? So first I want to start off with something that I heard presented at one time, and I'll get this focused. But what this is saying is these two numbers. It's saying that what could possibly take place before a teacher enters her student teaching, where she spends about 75 days as a teacher, she will have sat at a desk and been a student for 3,060 days approximately. For 3,060 days from kindergarten through grade 16, fourth year in college, a teacher will have been a student and watched teachers teach. Contrast that with the 75 days, typically a 15-week student teaching experience. And we have to ask ourselves, what could possibly happen in these 75 days that can significantly alter a person's conception of what teachers do and think? And yet we send these teachers out there with a license and with a degree, and we say, go ahead now, go ahead and teach, and we hope you're really good at that. Well, what we have been missing the boat on is this idea that without a really sustained and integrated approach to professional development of teaching, again, the two key words there I think are sustained and integrated. Without a sustained and integrated approach to professional development, most young teachers will continue to teach in ways they were taught. So they can learn all they want about constructivist beliefs at the College of Education. They can learn about deep thinking and responsive curriculum, but the chances are very good that they will go in and replicate what they have viewed for over 3,000 days once they're into their first year, and then that can continue, as we know, for the next 30 to 40 years into the career. All right. Then getting into the article that you read or you may read, I love this one quote that she gives us, and she says that new teachers have two jobs. All new teachers have two jobs. They have to teach, and then they have to learn to teach. And that's a lot to have to do. They have to teach and they have to learn to teach. So starting in, as I said, in about 1989, we started taking a look at what are some of these tasks that new teachers have. And let's take a look at these. According to the article, there are 6 tasks, and I'm just going to briefly go through these 6 various tasks. But new teachers, one of the things that they have to know how to do when they go into the classroom is they have to gain a local knowledge of students, curriculum, and school context. Kind of hard to teach that at the pre-service level. You don't have a handout on that if you want to take notes on this. If I see somebody back there looking, I don't have a handout on. You're looking for a pen? Does anybody have a pen? Do you need a pen? Is that what you need? Oh, I just see you struggling. I'm trying to, it's the mother in me. I'm trying to help you out. Okay, I'll quit focusing on you. All right, so how can we at the pre-service level possibly prepare a new teacher who's student taught, let's say at Hudson High School or Cuyahoga Falls Elementary, and they get a job down in Dayton or someplace that isn't even near to us? How can we possibly prepare them to be as effective as the experienced teachers in that building, because the students might be incredibly different than the ones with whom they worked at the pre-service level. The parents might be very different. The curriculum will be somewhat different. The testing procedures will be different. There'll be aspects of that culture that will be completely unfamiliar to this new teacher who is trying to teach and also learn how to teach.